What is up, good people? So we spend a lot of time on this channel S-talking leftism, S-talking crazy social justice shenanigans and all of that. But today, let's spend a little bit of time S-talking some conservative, shall we? Lord knows that we have enough, we can generate enough manure to spread it, to sow our seeds and make beautiful gardens all around. So specifically, I'm going to S-talk neoconservatism. So just as a reference point, since a lot of people might not know this, especially a lot of the Europeans, there are a few different forms of conservatism in the United States. You've got the, libtard party, which are based, love me libertarians, simple as one would say. And then there was a split basically in American culture around the Vietnam War. So there was an original basically the America First platform of paleoconservatives that were isolationist conservatives. There's pretty much the same policies that went into, the MAGA movement today, the America First platform, all the things the media calls racist, right? This would be paleoconservative ideas. They were against the war in Vietnam and against getting involved in it, much like how Trump was against the war in Iraq, right? Same sort of deal here. And then you have a neoconservatives that are interventionist, and this is part of the new left, right? There was two dichotomies that existed in both parties, and those were those for the war in Vietnam and the war crimes in Laos and all the other horrible things America did. Like, for instance, we dropped more bombs on Laos than were dropped in all of World War II. Just unfathomable war crimes that America committed, right? And all of these things that these neoconservatives, neoliberals did. And, going throughout history and seeing how the last 40 years were kind of shaped by the victory of the neoconservative neoliberals, you can really see how disgusting the neocons actually are and what their policies are. They're warmongering, imperialistic garbage that really shouldn't exist. The further back you go with conservatism, the better it gets. Straight back to even monarchy. I'm not a fan of democracy. It's no secret I've made multiple videos on this channel against democracy. For a number of reasons. I'm not going to go into them right now, but, the further back you go, the sweeter and sweeter conservatism is, the more based it gets, and the better are the ideas and the more pure the ideas actually are. So, if you want a general radial to tell how good a conservative idea or moveset is, all you have to look at is the age and when it was created. Neocons came out of the Vietnam War because they felt like killing more people, and, as such, here we are. They did exactly that. And, despite the obvious ramifications and failures of that policy, they managed to somehow take hold, probably through shady practices and, questionable elections, a number of questionable elections that have already happened in my lifetime, but we're going into times that were before my lifetime, sadly. As much as this degenerate boomer has been around for, I haven't been around for all of human history. But yeah, so you have these neoconservatives who begin by bombing Vietnam and then spend the rest of their years sending our young men to die, manipulating, left-leaning and right-leaning women into voting for them, to send our, right-leaning boys to die, intentionally decreasing their numbers like good little globalist pigs. And neoconservatism doesn't really have a message. It never really had a message besides we want to kill people in Vietnam. And that's the reason why it doesn't have a message today. That's also the reason why the tradcon movement and the traditional marriage movement isn't reaching men. And maybe, I think I'll make a video 150 a message for men, but, I'll save it for that. But these people's ideas aren't reaching because, one, they don't make sense. They didn't make sense back then, and they still don't make sense. Paleoconservatism is what made America strong. Isolationist America is what built this country and built everything up. The second we joined the global foray, that was the second we started having a tremendous downfall. The same thing happened with Japan. It turns out, isolationist nations just function much better than this global hegemony because most of the world is a bunch of subhuman trash. Whoops. Uh-oh. Said something naughty. Anyways, but that's the absolute truth of it. There are very few human beings of quality on the planet. There are very few human beings, capable of intelligent thought on the planet. And the vast majority of them are definitely not in a lot of these places that now we compete for labor and resources with. now that steal our jobs and outsource them because, Nike can pay them 50 cents an hour. And then all of the ideas and all of the beauty and all of the intelligence leaves the Western nations and goes to these absolute S-holes, and then human progression is destroyed and delayed. And that's the reality of what has happened. And that's a direct result of America losing its isolationist base, losing its paleoconservative base. So by doing that, we are now at basically the end of history, right? We are at the woke apocalypse for America. We are at the end of the West. The West is dead, and now we are going to have the barbarians overrun the gates. And now, what does the future hold? We're now leaving it to China to get us to the stars. Maybe, I mean, they have a much better shot than America does right now at it, but I'm still not really convinced about a future with a Chinese global hegemony. Maybe there's some sort of based potential here in America, but I really doubt it. I don't think so. I think it's just a slow decline over the course of our lives into nothingness. And, an eventual collapse, maybe faster, depending on how many men stop working and stop supporting the rest of the world, but we'll see. But either way, it's not looking good, we can say that much. And, instead of we don't need to return to 1950s America. It's not going to work. We need to return to 1300s, ideology and thinking to make things work. We need to go much more extreme than that. Like, the idea of democracy is just flawed. Women should not be voting to send men to go die. Peasants should not be voting. They're too easily swayed. They don't have good political opinions. There needs to be some metric where you earn the right to vote, because otherwise you simply don't have the means, don't have the intellect, don't have the ability to vote. Owning land is a great start, but I think we need a little bit better of a metric and test. And to be honest, since I don't think there is one, democracy as a whole is just a bad idea. The reality is democracy is 500 imbeciles holding down the one true leader that knows what to do. And in better times in history, the one true leader just simply took power and shaped history. History is told by a certain few men bending history and figuring things out and making history. And when we don't have that anymore, because that's a horrible patriarchal ideal, I know. But because we don't have that anymore, we don't have a future because we don't have history, And it's sad, but that's the reality of the situation and where we're going. But, hey, at least we can sit back and watch the decline. And you have a good day. Peace.